Welcome to Medspa Secrets. I'm Ben Chu.
And I'm Jen Bullitt.
And today we're going to talk to you guys all about building freedom inside of your med spa practice. So I don't know about you, but for me, when I started my very first business in kind of the health club gym space, and I know you with your starting of the med spa, I think we felt that okay, we're going to be leaving these jobs or our previous employment and we're embarking on this magnificent adventure to start up this business and get all of this freedom and make all of this money, and it's just going to be so wonderful. You're full of all kinds of vision and optimism and energy, and after a couple years go by, that starts to get kind of ground down, and suddenly you notice that you're starting to feel like you don't have any freedom, or you might even feel a little bit trapped in this situation that you've created with this business that you've manifested.
I definitely have noticed that that's been true for me, because the more you put into your business, the more it'll take. I mean, that's just all there is to it.
For sure. And then I think that the common reaction for most entrepreneurs when they get into that situation is they just kind of stay on the hamster wheel and maybe even go harder doing the exact same things, hoping that if they just do more of the same things or they do the same things harder, that they're going to get a different result. And maybe you've heard that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, hoping to get a different result. And to your point, a business, any business, will eat literally as much as you feed it. So, I mean, it'll eat all of the capital and money you put into it. It will eat all of the energy you put into it, all of the time you put into it, and all of the attention that you put into it. And you should be putting all of those things into your business. But if you're not doing it with the right mindset and with kind of the right frameworks and processes in place, then you're not going to achieve that freedom and those financial rewards that you had initially set out to get with all of that sort of optimism. Can you kind of talk a little bit about sort of your experience with the sort of the feelings of being trapped, or the feelings of not having freedom after kind of taking this big dive into a medical aesthetics business in order to get the freedom that you didn't have when you were at the hospital?
Right. Well, yeah, totally. So one of the things I think when you're really passionate about something is that you're willing to just put everything you have into it. Being a business owner, you'll notice that you never really have an off time if you're not really being careful of creating that for you. You're answering emails and answering phone calls and interacting with clients all the time, wanting to make money.
At 8 o'clock on a Saturday night when your business isn't even open, you're on Facebook responding to people.
Totally. And sometimes when you start out, you get in these habits where maybe you don't have a full schedule yet, and there's a lot more time and space for you to come in if you've only got 3 people on your schedule and somebody adds themselves in at the last minute, and you want to build a rapport with your patients and you want to build something incredible and amazing. And it feels like, I think when you start out like that, maybe you have space to do it, but then it creates a pattern and a foundation of this is just what I do. And so what I found for myself is I would be working 6-7 days a week. I would see patients in the morning and I would see them late at night because somebody needed to get in after work or they'd have an emergency. Just like there is no such thing as a Botox emergency, of course. What I found for myself is that the more I put into it, the more it took. And then I got to the place where I was like, wow, I'm just kind of super burned out, not loving it. It feels like you're waiting for the end of the week. So, yeah.
I think this is something that I see referenced quite frequently in a lot of the Facebook groups and forums with owners and providers and stuff that are in med spas, and they start out on this sort of optimistic, miraculous journey getting into the business, and the med spa industry, it has a really high failure rate, and it's not all due to poor financial decisions or the market or whatever. I think a lot of it is burnout because people are not putting the right boundaries in places. They're not looking at things with the right mindset, and before you know it, in a short handful of they're burnt out. And they've got debt attached to the business with a couple devices or something like that, and then they're selling them on the forums, just kind of closing things out to to wrap things up and take care of the debt in the business, and then they're basically walking away with nothing really to show for it, which is really sad because had they stayed at the hospital, they would probably have hundreds of thousands of dollars to show for it. But they had the vision and they took the leap and they jumped in and they just didn't put the right guardrails and the right processes in place, and then they weren't able to be successful because they burnt out. And I really don't want that to be the case for any of our viewers or anybody watching this. I think we've kind of described the situation now, like the problem, like people get into business, they want freedom, they don't manage to get it, so then they get burned out. So like, how can a med spa owner start really going about crafting or engineering the situation so that they can get that freedom that they did initially set out for? And I think, a big thing that I see people miss out on often is not paying themselves soon enough. Yes. And not taking dividends out soon enough.
Yes.
And that's not to knock reinvestment. You should be reinvesting in your business and in training, equipment, marketing, all the things, but you need to, I don't know, there's some sort of a phenomena. It's weird. I don't know a technical or an economic term for it, but when you start paying yourself and when you start pulling money out, you actually do start making more money.
It's true. I think that something happens with your mindset, and it also it makes you more excited. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I think some people get burned out is because they're putting so much in and they're not getting the reward back out, right? So when you're putting a lot in and you're making a lot of money, it feels good. You come in excited, and I do think that kind of energy draws more prosperity, and
it allows you to show up in a different way. If you're burnt out and you're worried about your personal finances, or if you're going to be able to afford to get XYZ for your kid or be able to go on a vacation this year or whatever, if you're having financial troubles at home because your business isn't paying you enough, that's going to show up in a way that patients can feel. And even if it might not be something that they can be like, oh, this person is super burnt out, they're going to pick it up in some sort of subcommunication or unconscious understanding.
Yeah.
And people they're drawn towards energy and success, and they're repelled. Most people are repelled by negativity and burnout and those kind of feelings that come along with it. And another point too about taking out money soon enough, it doesn't need to be huge amounts. You don't need to start immediately paying yourself what you were making at the hospital. Right. It just needs to be some. You need to start the habit of pulling money out of the company to pay yourself in both payroll and in dividends. Now, I'm not going to be your CPA. You should talk to your bookkeeper and your accountant about how, what the ratio of payroll to dividend withdrawal should be for yourself. But make sure you're doing both. And there's one really key thing that I think that a lot of people miss that I actually learned from one of my mentors, Alex Hormozy, about this, is that business owners that don't pay themselves and are not taking out dividends are actually exposing themselves to huge amounts of risk, because generally, I do believe that a practice of delayed gratification is generally a good thing, but it can be taken to too much of an extreme. And I see a lot of business owners and med spa owners kind of having this idea that oh, well, I'm just going to put absolutely everything back into the business all the time forever until someday when I'm going to be able to sell this thing for millions and millions of dollars. But the reality is, the statistics of it is that less than 1% of businesses ever actually go up for sale and are then acquired for at all, or for what they would truly be worth.
Right.
And the only way that a business owner can de-risk themselves somewhat from that statistic is they need to realize that it's going to be unlikely that you're going to be able to sell your business for millions and millions of dollars. It is certainly possible if you do a good job, but the way to de-risk that is to make sure that you're paying yourself along the way. Yes. So that you don't get to the end of a 10-year med spa career, 20-year med spa career, and have nothing to show for it if you're not able to actually sell your business for any real money.
That was the first time that I had really heard that concept, was from Alex, and it blew my mind wide open. And because I've always been a little bit more conservative with like finances and things like that. Just a little like nervous about having enough and things like that. And wanting to put it all back in. And it was at that time that you stepped in and you were like, no, we've got to make this pay us. And it was terrifying to me because I was like, where's it going to come from? But when we just ripped off the Band-Aid and you made us take money, like first and foremost, like it felt so much freer in our personal lives. It's nice to be able to afford to, or not worry about how you're going to pay your mortgage or whatever. But it was so incredible how everything just kind of opened up and expanded.
Totally. I mean, it's nice to be able to go to Costco and just buy whatever you need without worrying about how much it's going to be. I remember actually that's something that you said after you started actually taking money out of the company. You're like, wow, I really finally feel like I've arrived because we can just go to Costco and like we can buy whatever it is we think we need for the week, and like I don't really have to stress about how much it is.
Yeah.
So a big initial step towards developing that freedom and the habits and the processes that are going to create freedom in your business is to start paying yourself. Get on the payroll schedule and make sure you are being paid every 2 weeks or every other week or whatever your payroll schedule is. It doesn't need to be, again, a huge amount, but make sure that it's something as a starting point, and then make sure that over time it's increasing to where it should ultimately be. And then also start getting comfortable with pulling out dividend distributions. There's a number of different ways you can do that. You can do it monthly, quarterly, annually, just at the end of the year. I don't really care. I just believe that you should be doing it, but you do want to talk to your CPA about the best way to structure it.
Yeah.
Other than pulling money out, would you say it's probably more like mindset things that then start kind of like maybe the next tier to developing the freedom in your business instead of being enslaved to it?
Yes. It's easy to think, oh, I don't really have the money to do this, whether it's like doing your own social media or like I remember trying to build my own website when I first started the practice, and I'm not good at that type of thing. That's not my strong suit, but I figured I didn't have the money to pay somebody else to do it. And then 22 hours in, I'm in pain because I'm not good at it and I'm not getting anywhere. There's just so many things that we do that are not really in our wheelhouse because we think we're saving money. But ultimately, like there are things that we should be focusing our time and energy on, and
that would yield more money, right?
That would they're going to move the needle in the right direction, right? Like, so that was a concept, again, that came from Alex Hormozi, where he was talking about essentially how much money he saves by traveling.
Oh, by flying private jet?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to butcher the story, but he talks about how he makes an enormous amount of money per hour when he's working. And it's this concept where if you are paying something like, I don't know, how much is a flight on those private airlines?
I want to say it's probably somewhere in the range of like $6,000 to $8,000 a flight. But for someone like that who's making $17,000, $20,000 an hour,
right.
Like, if you start thinking, okay, well, now you're going to have to wait in TSA on the line for an hour. You maybe had to get there an hour earlier, too, for, like, baggage check-in and stuff. And then maybe you need to wait another hour yet to actually board your flight. So you're in it for 3 hours just to get on the plane, right? Well, that is, in Alex's world, those 3 hours is $60,000. So, like, when you then say, okay, well, it only cost $8,000 to just walk through a totally different entrance in the airport, get right on the private jet, and just leave, you're now actually like positive, $42,000 versus the plane ticket versus flying just commercial. And when you extrapolate that kind of concept out to everything else, you start seeing how it can really make a lot of sense in your business. For example, if you spent an hour cleaning the office, let's say that it was the end of the day, and
which I've done,
and Jen decides like, okay, well, I don't want to spend money paying a cleaning person $30 an hour or whatever to come in and clean the office, so I'm going to stay in and use another hour of my time, of my limited time, limited energy, limited attention, and move that much closer to burnout to save this $30. When in reality, she could have just sold one more filler appointment, treated that person, paid the cleaner $30 to clean the place, and then still been positive few $100s.
Exactly. But that's a really hard concept to wrap your mind around when you're first starting out and money is so tight. But just being able to let go of the things that I was doing not only freed up so much of like my emotional and physical time, or like, I don't know, it was part of the things that were wearing on me that created some of that burnout. Trying to do it all. And by hiring a cleaner, even taking the plunge and hiring the first front desk receptionist. It's like, how can I afford this? I can't really, I'm not sure if we have enough money to do it. But as soon as we do those things, everything just really opened up. Like I brought in the front desk receptionist. She was answering the phone, and the more we answered the phone, because I was in doing treatments, and if I missed a call, and maybe I would never recapture that person again. Having the receptionist there, she's doing her part. She can maybe be cleaning the office if you can't afford something. Just all of the little things that she did, all of a sudden the practice grew exponentially just from taking the leap of faith to hire that one person, right?
Well, and what it does truly is that it allows you to do your role instead of all of the other roles. And as the business owner, or as the primary provider, or however it's structured in your med spa or your business, generally speaking, like you're hourly as what it should be, not necessarily like what you're currently paying yourself, but your hourly as what it should be is generally going to be the highest in the business, because you're making the important executive decisions and you are doing the important procedures and stuff like that. So by taking those tasks that would be lower dollar per hour tasks and actually paying to give them to lower dollar per hour people, you make more money, because during that same time you can do your higher per dollar tasks.
Yes.
And it definitely is, it's counterintuitive is really what it is when you're in like a scarcity mindset.
At first, yeah.
Or when you're just starting out. But when you start to actually see it in practice, but then it does start to open up other things you need to start learning, right? You need to start learning how to manage people, how to hire and manage a team or contractors, or working with these other people that are going to do these lower dollar per hour tasks.
Yep. But that's a whole other podcast. The other thing I think that really can make a difference is, and for me as a provider, I love the creativity of learning new things, and I get a little bored by doing the same thing over and over and over again, because I'm always wanting to create and I love to have something for everyone. But I think one of the other pieces that made the biggest difference in my capacity to show up and serve and really have more freedom in the practice was when we niched down. We decided we had to focus on, this is what we're known for, this is what we do, and then we really just put all of our energy into that.
Got rid of all of the other stuff.
Got rid of the stuff that maybe wasn't the highest earning services. I liked doing them, but when you can do a filler appointment and make $1,000 or $2,000 in an hour versus a treatment that maybe is a lot of fun to do but is only worth $150 or $200 an hour, being willing to just let some of those things go, because they interrupt the flow of the day and really don't move you in the direction towards freedom. So being willing to just say, oh, well, yeah, that doesn't really make me money or as much money as these things. And like, that's been huge for me, and actually provides a lot more like mental freedom than I realized it would, because I was having to stay up to date on this and this and this and all the little different things that are new in this section of the industry, and really just being like the injectionist, the filler and Botox girl, that was where we really saw the practice improve and increase.
Absolutely. Nothing wrong with having some lower ticket items and stuff like that, but again, you have to have people who can fill those roles, and chances are that's not going to be you, but nothing wrong with having a CNA or an esthetician or something like that doing some of those things. You just need to realize that as the business owner, if you try to do all of the tasks in every single wage category across the board all the time, that you're going to burn out, and ultimately you're going to have very little to show for it at the end of the day, end of the year, end of the life of that particular business.
Yeah.
So I think really to kind of recap, we've got like a lot of people get into business to find freedom. A lot of people don't find it because they don't adopt the right mindset. So if you do want to find that freedom, you need to start paying yourself You need to start pulling out dividends. You need to start recognizing what tasks actually move the needle in your business towards success.
Yeah.
And you need to bias your time, energy, money, and attention towards only those tasks. And you need to hire or outsource to other people the tasks that don't move the needle as dramatically for you. Or if there are tasks that do move the needle dramatically, but maybe it's not your strong suit, like say website building,
right,
then you also need to find somebody else to do that, because again, like if your strong suit is doing procedures, you can sell a few more syringes of filler, you can sell a few more Botox treatments to pay for that website, and it's going to be much easier for you to do that than for you to learn how to code HTML and learn how to update domain name savers and all of the like coding and techie stuff. And you need to realize that eventually that will pay big dividends.
It does. It does. Yeah, and I think like as soon as you got that figured out, then you'll realize there's something else to focus on and learn. And that's the beauty and the creation, I think, of being in business.
Yeah, so like it will always be a continuous process. You'll find out that like as you level up, there'll be new problems and you'll find new people to handle those. But at least if you kind of adopt these kind of mindset things, you'll be able to avoid burnout, find some of that freedom you were looking for, and then you'll be able to actually experience leveling up instead of closing your doors or being super unhappy and then seeking like a different line of work.
Right.
So hopefully you got some great value out of that. If you did, please give us a thumbs up, a subscribe, so that we can continue to share more Medspa secrets.
See you guys.
Bye.